All right, now that we've covered the aspect of what an options contract is, at least introduce that topic to you. And remember that an options contract gives you the right, but not the obligation, to engage in a futures contract at a predetermined price level. So basically, instead of actually engaging in a futures options, you just get the chance to, or the option to, if you choose to do so. So I'm going to throw in some more terminology, and we talked a little bit about the strike price. And that strike price is that price at which you can enter into the futures market under an option. So whenever you engage in an options contract, you're going to be able to pick from a predetermined range of values known as the strike price, to where you're going to engage in that if you decide to engage in that futures contract, it's already at a preset price known as that strike price. Remember, just a couple other tidbits. Remember that a put option gives you the right but not the obligation to sell, whereas a call option gives you the right but not the obligation to buy an underlying futures contract. And yeah, I keep saying it, but this aspect of it's a right but not an obligation is very important distinction as well. We also said that an options contract is a derivative of the futures contract, which means it's more or less an offshoot of it. It's a part of it, but it's not necessarily a specific futures contract. So I'm going to throw some more terminology at you. In the money, at the money, and out of the money. So an options contract is in the money, and if it falls into one of two categories. So let's start with the put option. Remember, a put option gives you the right but not the obligation to sell at an underlying strike or an underlying futures contract. Gives you the right but not the obligation to sell an underlying futures contract at a predetermined price known as the strike price. So let's say that the strike price is above the futures value. So let's say that the strike price is $165 per hundredweight, and the futures value is $135. You're going to be what is known as in the money. This is where you want to be. You want to be in the money because that means you're making money. You're profiting off of it. So how is that in the money? Well, remember that a put option gives you the right but not the obligation to sell. So if you sell at a specific strike price of $165, well, you can buy it back at $135. You sell high, you buy low, you make money. So you're in the money. Well, call option is in the money if the strike price is below the futures value. So sorry about that there. I don't quite know how I did this, but I started zooming in somehow. So I got it back to its right place. So a call option is going to be in the money. Remember, a call option gives you the right but not the obligation to buy an underlying futures contract at a specific set price. So a call option is in the money if the strike price is below the futures value. So how is that? So if you have the right but not the obligation, but you can buy an underlying futures contract at, say, a strike price of $135, but the futures value is $165. So guess what you do? You buy it at $135, you sell it at $165, you're in the money. Now the next terminology is at the money, where both the put and call options are at the money if the strike price is equal to the futures value. Then you can buy it. It doesn't matter if you engage in that contract or not, because if you engage in it, well, then you buy it at the same price that you're selling it at. You're at the money. You're not really going to profit nor lose anything. But you are considered out of the money if in the put option, if the strike price is below the futures value. So if the strike price is below the futures value, so remember, it gives you the option. The put option gives you the right but not the obligation to sell. So if the strike price is below, so let's say that the strike price is $135 per hundredweight, and the futures value is $165, well, it doesn't make much sense to engage in that futures contract or to try to engage in that futures contract and sell at $135 when you have to buy it back at $165. So the strike price, if it's below the futures value, that means, and you're engaging in a put option, that means you would sell at a low value, buy it back at a high value. You're out of the money. You're not making money. You're out of it. A call option is going to be out of the money if the strike price is actually above the futures value. If that strike price is above that futures value, then you would actually buy it at a high price and then turn around and sell it at a low price. Again, you're out of the money. So you're in the money basically whenever you can buy high, or buy low and sell high, or buy low or sell high and buy low. One of the ways. As long as you're buying low and selling high, you're in the money. But if the situation goes in where you would actually be, if you engage in that options contract, where you would be buying high and selling low in some fashion, or possibly selling low and then buying high, you're out of the money. But if you buy and sell at the same price, well, you're in the money. And that's the long story short of it. But to make sure to know that you're in the money and out of the money, you've got to understand that a put gives you the right but not the obligation to sell at a underlying futures price. So if you're going to sell, you want the price that you buy it back at to be low. So you're going to be in the money if the strike price is above the futures. Call is where you have the right but not the obligation to buy. So if you're going to be buying an underlying futures contract, you want that strike price, that price at which you're going to buy it at, to be below the futures value, to be in the money.